Hello, Toy Collector fans. Universal Toy Collector here, and welcome to the channel. Let's have a discussion. Yes, hello everybody, welcome to the channel and welcome to the Discuss live stream. The live stream where we have a topic and we discuss it and we invite a guest on to help with that discussion. We have a topic to discuss and also have a guest to discuss that topic with. But before we do that, I just want to say a massive apology to APD. He's actually having a live stream at this moment in time as well. So that was my bad. I kind of planned this at the beginning of the week, and so we've sort of like I've got the times mixed up, so I do apologize for that. So he is doing a live stream at this moment over on his channel. So yeah, I do apologize, Nick. Anyhow, let's crack on and let's say hello to some people in the chat. We have Super Awesome. Hello there, John. Hey, how are you? Nice of you to join us. We have Chris Miwa from Chasing 80s Toys. Hello, how are you? Thank you for joining us. We have Des T. Hello, sir. How are you? Hoping you're well. Thank you. We have Kieran Ball. Hello, sir. Nice of you to join us. Thank you very much. We have Georgie. Hello. Thank you for joining us. Everybody's saying hello. Oh, we've got Goji in the house as well. He's our guest. I'll get him on in a minute. And I think it is, again, just people chatting. Where we have Delvian Seek. Hello. How are you? Nice to join us. Thank you very much. And that is it for this moment in time. But that's all good. That's all good. So let's get our guest on and let's have a discussion about the topic. Hello, Goji. How are you?
Hello, Stuart. Hello, chat. How's everyone doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm well. I'm well. Like I say, a bit of a mix up with the timings on the live stream, so we got a bit of a clash. So not to worry about that. But anyway, are you well?
I am well. Yes, everything is good here. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. Not too bad. Looking forward to this conversation. So
Yes.
The topic is comic book characters and them transitioning from the comic book to the big screen. And I just want to get some thoughts and opinions on it, because you've got like DC superheroes, you've got Marvel superheroes, you have Transformers to a certain extent, and you also have G.I. Joe. Some work better than others. And the question is, I want to know, why do some work better than others? And do their characters change from comic book to the big screen? So Goji.
Always. They will always change. A tale as old as time. Is the adaptation as good as the source material? And two things I look at with the comic book adaptations. One is the storytelling between comics and film is a completely different language. So with comics, you're serializing a story that plays out over the course of months, sometimes years. You have room to put in all sorts of subplots and side characters. So when you're adapting that to another medium, such as a film, the screenwriter has the job to try to take all that information, condense it, streamline it, and also make it accessible to a wider audience, which is a huge challenge. I wouldn't want to be a screenwriter trying to adapt comic books, because that's a real pain in the butt. So yeah, there's obviously going to be changes made because of that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, what we have to remember is everyone involved in the film process, from writers to directors to actors to the special effects people, they're all creative people on their own. So they just don't want to take source material and adapt it one for one. They want to put their own flavor, their own spin, sometimes their own messaging, for ill or for good. So there's always going to be changes between the comic and the film, or the television show, or the animation, the video game, whatever it may be. It's pretty much unavoidable, I think. Because like I said, the storytelling language is completely different between the page and the screen.
Okay, interesting. So what we'll do is we'll go through, like, we go through DC, we'll go through Marvel, and then we'll get onto a bit of Transformers and G.I. Joe. Now, for me, I think some of the DC characters, I think, work better on big screen than, say, like some of the other ones. Like, I mean, for example, Batman, The Dark Knight, I think he works very well on the big screen from his transition from comic book to the big screen. I can't say that for certain other like DC characters. I mean, what about yourself? How do you feel about that?
I mean, certain characters can be played with because there've been so many different iterations over the years. Batman being the
Yeah,
perfect example. There is no one true Batman. The Adam West Batman is as legitimate as the Michael Keaton Batman or the Kevin Conroy Batman or any other Batman in the comics. And
yeah,
you have to remember, over the course of 80 years, with Batman and Superman especially, there's been hundreds of different writers and artists working on them. So there's been hundreds of different spins and iterations done in just the comics. So when you adopt them to film, there's all that source material to choose from, and a lot of times they'll just pull, they'll cherry pick what they like. Maybe a little bit from Frank Miller, maybe a little bit from Neil Adams, so on and so forth. So some characters like Batman lend themselves to adaptations. Superman's a little tougher.
yeah,
Because Superman, with Batman, you can play him camp, you can play him serious. There's different ways you can play Batman. I don't think you can do that with Superman because
yeah,
we've seen in like the Snyderverse where they tried to go with a more serious Superman, people just didn't take to it. Superman has to be what he is, the shining light in the darkness, and the great hope when all is lost. That's Superman's character. And if you play around with that, it's really not
yeah.
Superman anymore, which is why a lot of other people that want to do a different version of Superman create their own character. You see characters like Homelander in The Boys, or Omni-Man in Invincible, or the Sentry in Marvel Comics. These are all different variations on the Superman theme. So when you want to play around with Superman, usually it's easier to create a new character than it is to go back and try to immutably change Superman, because it
Yeah.
really doesn't work with him.
You said about Batman being, I mean, Adam West and the Batman 66 was very, very camp. Did they ever come across as camp in the comics? Because I wasn't like too big into comics back, when I was younger. Did
Yes.
he ever come across as camp in the comics? He did.
Oh, yeah. At that time in the
Oh, wow.
1960s, it was all camp. It was all silly. If you look back at the 1960s Batman comics, it looks like the TV show. There are weird, wacky, colorful villains,
Yeah.
the gimmicks with the giant props and all that. And, with Robin by his side spewing the silly phrases. Yes, in the 1960s, I think the comic books sort of adapted what the television show was doing because
Right.
the TV show was so popular, which is a lot of times we see that also when the movies and television become popular, they sort of retcon those aspects back into the comics. I know
Right.
recently the Guardians of the Galaxy has been very much changed in the way they're portrayed in the comics because of the James Gunn films. So they kind of feed one another. When one becomes popular, it feeds back into the other medium.
We'll stick with Batman for the time being, and I guess Superman as well, because you did mention him. Has the essence of their characteristics ever changed at all from comic to big screen? Because Superman, we know what he can do. He's got his powers and stuff like that. Nothing's ever really changed with Superman, has it? With his superpowers and I guess how he is and stuff like that. And I guess the same with Batman as well.
I look at all these franchises, all these characters as having an immutable foundation, right? There's the foundational aspects of the characters that shouldn't be changed. So with Batman, 8-year-old Bruce sees his parents murdered before his eyes in the alley, and he swears an oath to bring justice to the unjust. That's the foundation of Batman. You can take that foundation and build whatever house you want to on top of that.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Superman. Superman, the problem I had with Zack Snyder's Man of Steel is that he toyed with the foundation of Superman. And what I mean by that is Superman is not Superman because he is Kal-El of Krypton. He's Superman because he is Clark Kent of Kansas. So the rocket ship was found by Jonathan and Martha Kent.
Yep.
And they raised him with a very strong set of moral values to help your neighbor, to don't turn away those in need, to stand up for what's right. And in the Man of Steel film, the Kents were portrayed as very selfish and fearful people.
Yeah.
So there was that scene in the film, which is also in the trailer. Young Clark saves a bus full of his classmates from drowning, and his father is very cross with him. He says, "Well, what would have happened if someone had seen you?" And young Clark says, "Should I have let them die?" And Kevin Costner, Jonathan Kent, says, "Well, maybe." that didn't ring true to me, because Superman's father would never suggest to him that
Yeah.
he knowingly let innocent people die to protect himself. That's one of the aspects that makes Clark Kent Superman, is how he was brought up by his parents with those strong moral values. So I think if you tinker with the foundational aspects of those characters and then try to build on top of that, you're building on a foundation of sand. I think there's
Yeah.
certain things that should not be changed. And beyond that, you can play with the concept a little bit.
Why do you think then? I mean, why do you think then, like this day and age, that people like to tinker with a decent foundation? Like, for example, they could come in and do another Batman movie and totally change Batman. They could totally change Superman. Those foundations. Is that to bring them into this modern day times and stuff like that? I mean, is it setting a precedent? Is it dangerous to mess with those kind of
Well,
foundations?
like I
that
said,
kind
all
of
these creative people want to put their own stamp on it. And some
Yeah.
of them want to also put their own messaging on it. So that, they have free reign to do that. We don't own any of these characters. If Warner Brothers is okay with somebody changing the foundational aspects of Batman and Superman, it's going to be done. Now, the question is, how does the audience respond to that? And is it successful or not? More times than not, I find that if people mess with the foundational aspects of the characters, they're not well received. But, these creative people, they want to roll the dice. They want to do the next big thing. And some of them, unfortunately, in today's Hollywood, don't have the creative juices to make their own things. They have to adapt other things, which is a lot of what we're seeing with the controversies in, the geek or the nerd community with what Hollywood's been doing lately with Star Wars and Doctor Who and whatever else. These people want to change those franchises to suit what they want to say instead of creating something new to deliver that message. And that's where a lot of the controversy is coming from.
How many times? I mean, I know you said it's been 80 years. Batman or I think it's Batman. I mean, how many times can we have? Hey, Willem, how many times can we have? People redo Batman and stuff like that. So it's basically going to be just the same story told over and over again, but it's going to be just updated to modern day viewing, isn't it?
I mean, you can play with the things around Batman. You can the Robins is a great example. There've been so many Robins. If somebody wants to put their own spin on Batman, they'll come in, they'll change, the Bat family, as it were, if they want to. The Robins or Batgirl or something with Commissioner Gordon or something with Alfred. Or they could change different things about Batman as well. In the 70s, Batman moved out of the Batcave and he put his headquarters in Wayne Tower in the middle of Gotham City. That was a big change that happened in the 70s. And eventually they went back to the Batcave. So these things run in cycles. They'll, every 5-10 years, there'll be a big change. Then they'll return to status quo. It's been going on for decades.
So so Batman and Superman then from DC, do you think their transition from comic to the big screen has been fairly successful?
Yes and no. So with Superman, the Christopher Reeve films, I think if you capture the spirit of the character, that's what's most important. And the Christopher Reeve Superman films captured the spirit of the character, especially in Reeve's performance. Now, the first Superman film reboot after the Christopher Reeve films happened back in 2006. I don't know if you remember Superman Returns.
Yes.
And there was an actor named Brandon Routh.
That's it.
Took on the role of Superman. He was very good in that role, but that script was very weak. It was a bad script. So that was not very well received. Even though that he embodied the character well, the story around him was very weak. And then we move on to Henry Cavill. I really liked Henry Cavill as Superman. He looks like Superman. He is so heroic and statuesque, and he really had the sincerity. But again, the script kind of let him down in that way. And then they sort of, let him along for a while, brought him back, and then fired him again and became a whole mess. So, some things that they've transitioned to screen have done well, some haven't. The first two Michael Keaton films, very well received. And then Tim Burton left. Joel Schumacher came on for the sequels. It became very camp, especially in Batman and Robin with Schwarzenegger and Uma Thurman. And people didn't take to that well. They were used to a more serious Batman that Tim Burton delivered, and then they went back into camp, and that didn't work. And then you went on to Christopher Nolan, who brought it back into serious again, and that worked.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the creation. It depends on the creators, how they approach the material. It also depends on the audience at the time, because audiences' tastes change over time, or else we'd be watching the same movies over and over again.
Because that's why Michael Keaton wasn't up for doing the third one, was it? I think because he wasn't too keen on the script. I'm not too sure if that's true or not, but I heard that he wasn't too keen on the script. Yeah. So, I mean, so you've got more other characters within DC, like Aquaman, Wonder Woman. Do you think they're and the Flash, were just recently as well? Do you think they've transitioned well? Because again, I don't know too much about those kind of characters.
In television and animation, yes. In film, not so much. I mean, the first Gal Gadot Wonder Woman film was very good. It was very well received. It was a good story. The second film she did, it all sort of fell apart because people didn't like that script. But even though her first film was well received, people still think of Linda Carter back in the 1970s on television as their Wonder Woman, because Linda Carter embodied that character so much and was so sincere in that performance. And things like The Flash, you have, back in the 90s, John Wesley Shipp played The Flash on television, and he did a very good job with that character. But then in the Snyderverse films, you had, I forget the actor's name, the one that went off the rails, Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller played him. People didn't care for that portrayal at all. And I think those were the creative choices that Snyder and the people around him were doing.
Well, Gaps turned around and said, no, Flash did not transfer well, nor Wonder Woman, nor most of their movies.
In the films, yeah.
Then he's put Linda Carter is Wonder Woman forever and ever and ever. So I think Gap likes Linda Carter.
I agree.
It's such a shame. I mean, like I say, I'm not too up to date with these characters as such with comics, but I mean, were they big in the comics? Did they have strong storylines in the comics back in the 60s and 70s?
It depends on the creative team. Like in the late 1960s, they fundamentally changed Wonder Woman. Right. They took away her costume. They took away her powers. They made her more of a secret agent character. And then in the early 70s, they brought her back to the traditional Wonder Woman. So like I said, over the course of the decades, they played with these characters so much. Barry Allen, the original Flash, well, not the original Flash, the Silver Age Flash, died in the 80s. His protege took over, and then they brought Barry Allen back. So these things all run in cycles, and everyone has their favorite.
Yeah. Why is it? I mean, we get to Marvel in a minute, but why do you think that the DC multiverse isn't or doesn't seem as strong as the Marvel universe on screen anyway?
The best iteration of the DC universe on screen was on television and in animation. That was the DC animated universe that began with Batman the Animated Series and ran through Superman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited. That is probably the most perfect adaptation of the DC universe that has ever been done. The reason that is it, first of all, was animation, and it's much easier to adapt the, more out there, sillier aspects of the comics into animation. People accept it more when it's on a cartoon rather than on the big screen. And the second reason is, of course, that universe played out over the course of years and hundreds of episodes. They had so much time to build that universe, to build up the stories and the characters and give all the characters satisfying arcs. And it's really tough to do that in the course of a film. If you're trying to make a film series and you get the first film wrong, your series is done. We've seen that so many times. We saw that with the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie, which was supposed to be the start of a universe, went nowhere. We saw that with the Tom Cruise Mummy movie, was supposed to be the start of a universe, went nowhere. Wow. Meanwhile, I know we're going to talk about Marvel in a minute. Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, they nailed it in the first film, and they were able to build upon that.
Kieran Balls put first Wonder Woman for movie starred Katy Lee Cosby as a female spy rather than a female superhero, but that reflected the comic book as Wonder Woman was a spy at that time.
Right. That was the run I was referring to in the late 60s.
Brave and the Bold cartoon did a good job of balancing camp and seriousness. Okay, I need to watch that because, like I say,
a great show.
I'm still watching the Batman animated series at the moment.
You're very far behind with DC animation.
I am.
DC has done so much more in animation than they have in live action, and it's a lot better.
people are more forgiving of true blue heroism in animation than they are in live. Well, yeah, true. Gojitron over here singing my whole life.
I got you, Will.
Hi, Robert. Oh, we got Robert's. Oh yeah, hello, sir. How are you? Appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much. Who else is this? Jojo Dave C. Straight. Hello, Dave. How are you, mate? Nice to see you.
Dave.
Hope you're recovering well.
Yes. Hope you're feeling well, Dave.
Got your feet up. Yeah. Bless him. I didn't even realize that was going on. So that's quite a major operation he's had there. So fair play to him. Right, we touched on it. Marvel. I mean, I knew a lot of the Marvel comics as a kid. Again, didn't really get into them too much. You had like Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, X-Men and stuff like that. But Iron Man, I never really sort of like got into Iron Man, even in the animated series. But when I first saw that Iron Man film, I just thought Robert Downey Jr. was absolutely superb. And do you think that's the reason why they nailed it, because of his performance as Iron Man?
There's so many people involved in the creative process. I think it was him. I think it was Jon Favreau who directed it. I think it was, Kevin Feige who was guiding it, who had faith in the concept of the shared universe that they were setting up. It has to be a perfect storm of creators come together and make a film like that. Because as we saw, Iron Man 2, same creative team, wasn't as good as 1. So why not? You have the same creative people, the same character. Why wasn't it as good? Again, with the script. And then Iron Man 3, different director. That one is not, very well remembered.
Hi, Zoe.
So it has to be a perfect storm of creators to get the perfect, the perfect movie.
The thing is, with the way I see Iron Man 2, yes, it is its own standalone movie, and it is a kind of like a follow-up to the original Iron Man, the first one. But I also think it's part of a bigger picture. I mean, that MCU was, I think, was it 22 films that they did? And I think each and every one of those films just seamlessly blended into each other. And I think they knocked it out of the park, Marvel's phases 1 to 3. I think they did such a great job. I mean, you were saying about the DC multiverse, and they have to go, it could have gone on years and stuff like that. But how come it works so well with Marvel? What was the difference between the Marvel universe that they did with the 22 films and what they've done with DC?
Marvel had the plan to begin with. DC was trying to play catch up. So DC tried to start their shared universe with Man of Steel and then Batman v Superman. And then they stuck all the other Justice Leaguers in Batman v Superman. They rushed it, and it just didn't work. With Marvel, they allowed the characters to breathe in their own films before bringing them together in the Avengers. Then when the Avengers happened, that's when we saw Thanos. That's when we knew that something bigger was going on. So they allowed that first set of films, of 6 films, to breathe and let people get to know these characters before they said, okay, now we're going to do something. And that worked. And I think a lot of the poorer films in the Infinity Saga are forgiven because they were part of that whole larger picture.
Yeah. I mean, and as characters go, do you think that they've transitioned well from comic book to the big screen?
Like I said, they can. It all depends on the creators. I think Chris
Evans. But I mean, what you've seen so far in the whole, from say, like we just stick with Marvel's phases 1 to 3.
Yeah,
the portrayals of like Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk.
Right. Downey Jr. did an excellent job. Chris Evans was the embodiment of Captain America. I loved his performance as Captain America. He had that sincerity about the character, but he didn't make it trite. He didn't make it jingoistic. He was the Captain America I think of in the comics, the guy that's not just standing up for America, he's standing up for the ideal of America, the idea of freedom, and that everyone should have freedom. I think Hemsworth did a great job as Thor and continued to do a great job as Thor, even as his scripts went to the toilet under Taika Waititi. I didn't like those scripts at all. But I think he also is sincere about playing that role. And, the character's sincerity and taking the role seriously is what makes a lot of the character, along with, the costume, the special effects. You have to have the right actor in that role. Like I said, going back to Christopher Reeve, he embodied that character.
Zoe's just put, I've not read the comics of The Boys, but I'm very much enjoying the Amazon Prime series. Thoughts? To be honest with you, Zoe, I've not read the comics either, and I've not seen the series yet. So that's something myself and Georgie will have to sort of like get into to watching. But Goji, have you seen the boys?
I have
Have you
not
read the
read
comics?
any issues of The Boys. I've seen every episode, and I love the series The Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It
So
is
it's worth watching.
it is extremely subversive. It is not a Marvel or DC show. It is extremely violent. It is it has very many adult themes running through it. Carl Urban plays the lead character. He is not likable at all, but you can't help but like him. It's a really good series.
Okay, I'll have
Not
to.
not for
We'll
the
have to,
kiddies.
we'll have to
Not
watch
for the
that.
kids.
Not for the kid.
No,
Yeah.
not
Okay.
for the
We're not-
kids.
And what's that? Is that? Did you say it's DC?
The Boys was I think Image might have published it originally. Well, one of the other titles. It's not a Marvel or a DC imprint.
Okay, I'm not 100% sure. So whenever I do asbestos training at work, they always say about Asbestos Lady, who was a villain in the comics, but never seen in live action or cartoons. I'm not 100% sure on that character. So I wish G.I. Joe movie could have been more of a Marvel Hammer story. Yeah, we're gonna get to that in a bit, Dave. We will get to that. We'll touch on that for sure. Love the boys, but even the TV show can't top the madness in the comic. The comics utter crazy. Oh, right, okay. Okay, didn't know that. The first couple seasons of the boys I liked. I liked the latter and current seasons less. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Chris Evans made Captain America cool. I don't think that was possible. Again, seeing these Marvel movies. I mean, I never watched them when they first came out. I couldn't get into it. I wasn't a big fan as a kid and stuff like that when I was growing up, or as a teen. I knew Batman, so I was more into Batman and Superman and stuff. But then for some reason I thought, you know what? But heck it, let's just watch these movies, and I absolutely loved it. I watched them in proper like order of how they should have been, and I'd absolutely loved it. And then I sat and watched them again. I got Georgie to watch them, and she loved them as well. So, but yeah, that was pretty decent. I like those. I felt DC tried in this order in comparison to Marvel movies in Civil War, Avengers, Infinity Wars, Guardians of the Galaxy. I felt DC tried it in this order in comparison. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
So Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League, Suicide Squad. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I hated Chris Evans as a Human Torch, but love him as good. Yeah, see, crikey, I totally forgot that he was the Human Torch as well, wasn't he, in the Fantastic Four?
Yeah.
The Boys show is much better than the comics, in my opinion. Oh, okay. Agreed. Robert Downey Jr. became Tony Stark, my favorite. Yeah, I mean, you even got to see him in the animated series, and he's kind of like a cocky, kind of confident kind of person in the animated series. And I thought personally, seeing Robert Downey Jr.'s performance, I just loved him. Even in the second movie, I thought he was fairly decent. I mean, do you think there are any weak points within the Marvel movies?
Oh yeah,
as
in the Infinity Saga, I think people mostly look at Thor: The Dark World as a weak point.
Yeah,
and overall, Marvel has a real villain problem. I mean, besides Thanos and Loki and maybe Ultron, all the villains in their films have been fairly weak.
Yeah.
And that's been a huge issue, coming out of the Infinity Saga as well. In the recent films, there hasn't been, a Thanos, and Loki has been relegated to TV. There really hasn't been one of those big villains to follow through all the movies in the new, whatever phase they're calling this, and that's been a problem for them.
Yeah,
I mean, when the best villains in the current phase are Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe, who came from the Sony Spider-Man movies, that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I did quite like Loki. I thought he was, Tom Hiddleston played him very well.
Oh yeah, he was excellent. Yeah, like I said, really Thanos, Loki, and probably Ultron were the best villains out of that, Infinity Saga films. But all the other villains were fairly forgettable. I mean, who remembers Malekith or Ghost or the Ironmonger?
Yeah,
they're just not very memorable.
True.
And it doesn't help that they kind of kill them all off after their first appearance.
Carl Urban needed more outings for Judge Dredd. That was a great adaptation.
Agreed.
Again, I remember Judge Dredd in the comic books. I don't even think I've seen the Sylvester Stallone version of Judge Dredd.
No, you don't need to. You don't need to at any time in your life. You need to
no,
see that.
Was it that bad?
Yes.
Okay. And
Mhm.
what about the Carl Urban version?
I talk about actors committing to the characters. One
Yeah.
of Judge Dredd's traits in the comics is you never see Dredd without his helmet. And in Hollywood, it's very difficult for actors to go through with their faces covered all the time. They want the moneymaker out. They want to constantly take off their masks and their helmets and reveal themselves. Carl Urban committed to the character, did not take off his helmet through the entire film.
Wow.
It could have been
Wow.
anybody under that helmet. So yeah, I appreciate that he agreed to do that.
Well, I mean, that does make me so like laugh when you say about that. They want to show their face all the time. I mean, I'm assuming it was his voice that he used as well, yeah, for the
Oh yeah,
film.
yeah. Mhm.
So people, would know who it is through his voice and stuff like that. He's been in loads of films where he sees his face, and it's the same with all the other actors. So why can't they just go through one movie and really get into that character? Is it because they're so vain they want to be seen on the TV?
Probably. I mean, you're looking through the Marvel movies, they have any excuse to take their masks off. Spider-Man's always got his mask off. Put your damn mask on. You're Spider-Man. Put your mask on.
Yeah. What's this, Goji? What's your favorite Marvel comic book series, and why is it Micronaut? So, well, there you are. You've got the answer there already.
Mhm. Largo knows. Largo knows.
Uh,
Actually,
what's
it's
this?
Godzilla with Micronauts coming in a close second, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
fine.
I'd love Carl Urban as Butcher, but his English accent is questionable. Who is Butcher?
Billy
Oh,
Butcher is the main character
in
in
the
The
boys.
Boys.
In the
Yeah,
boys. Okay, yeah, okay.
yeah.
What's this? I always felt Captain America was cool. I am weird. I thought he was quite bloody boring, to be honest with you. I mean, I liked him as a character, and I liked him within the films, but I always thought he was a bit straight laced. He
Yeah,
was always like very much by the book, wasn't he? I mean, is that how he was portrayed in the comics as well?
he can be a bit of a square. He can be straight-laced.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons they did Civil War was to kind of show him in the comics, was to show him in a new light.
Oh, okay. Stu, what sort of comics are popular in the Yeah, all the like Marvel comics, I guess, and the DC ones, Batman and stuff like that. So I guess
2000
it's pretty
AD.
much
Ever read 2000 AD?
2000 AD. That was Judge Dredd, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was it
Was
was
he
an
in that?
anthology, a lot of series in there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I remember the comics 2000 AD, yeah, but I mean, again, it was something that I was never sort of like really into. I had the only comics that I had when I was I think I was about 16, 17, was the Death of Superman and when Kane breaks Batman's back. And I had
Mhm.
those original first issue comics, and then I went and sold them. Absolute nutter. I wish I'd have kept those. So yeah, but I think in our comics are pretty much the same as what you have in the US there.
Mhm.
Hello G-Force, how are you? Nice of you to join us. Thank you very much.
GeForce.
What's this? They need to stop killing the villains off. Yeah, I mean, yeah, yep. Bring on Doom. Oh, Doctor Doom. He's from is it Fantastic Four?
Fantastic Four, yeah.
Yep, yep. I mean, again,
Supposedly coming out in 2025. They've got the cast nailed down. We'll see what happens.
okay, because that'd be the third time they've got a team for
Uh,
Fantastic Four.
Technically the fourth if we count the unreleased Roger Corman film. But yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
And what about the X-Men? Because the X-Men, you had oh crikey, what's his name? Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier,
Mhm.
Ian McKellen as Magneto. I mean, I thought they did a pretty good job. Did they stay true to their comic characters and the rest of the guys that were in the X-Men movies?
Yeah, I think those first couple of films embody the spirit of the characters well.
The example, Kane
Professor
got
X,
beat by
Magneto did a good job. Some of the characters were weak. Holly Berry Storm was very weak. I didn't buy her as Storm at all. She
No?
was not regal enough. But then you had Hugh Jackman, the star of the show,
Yeah.
who everyone said couldn't play Wolverine because he was much too tall. And here
I
we
thought
are
he did a
nearly
good job.
25 years later, and there's a new Wolverine movie coming out because
Yeah, I know.
fans demanded it.
It's mad. It's mad. And I mean, I guess, I mean, he's I guess you can't really sort of like alter or change that type of character Wolverine too much, can you, from the comic books? He was quite gruff in the comics as well, wasn't he? And in the animated series.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they played around a lot with his past and the nature of his powers and things like that.
Yeah.
But being the tough little scrapper is what Wolverine is all about. And then, his on again, off again love triangle between Cyclops and Jean Grey and Wolverine.
Mm. Yeah, I thought he did a good job. I liked him. Endgame had two major problems: Captain Marvel and the fact they didn't understand the concept of time travel. I to be fair, I did quite like Captain Marvel. I didn't like the Marvels. I thought that was atrocious, but there you go. We'll get into that in a bit as well. No, the Stone version wasn't that bad. It was worse. Okay, I won't be watching that then. Oh, there are people saying hello to each other. George Aitken, hello, sir. How are you? Nice you to join us. Very much appreciated. Hope you're keeping well, sir. I want heroes for hire live action, Iron Fist and Power Man in the 70s, Kung Fu action movie. Okay. And Iron Fist is Marvel. Is that Marvel?
That's Marvel, yeah.
Marvel, yeah.
Yep. They tried to do him on television and they
Jonathan?
botched it.
Judge Dredd is like Snake Eyes that way. Okay, yeah.
Right, never unmask.
What's this? Cinematic crime that Dredd never got a sequel. Which one? The Sylvester Stallone one or the Carl Urban version? Just check the chat. George Aitken, taking a break from sitting on your throne of Palatine Action Force goodies. Actually taking a break from trying to find a secret base to rule the world. And I heard Stu has a complete My Little Pony. Oh, I don't have a My Little Pony comic collection yet.
But you're a brony, right?
I'm not a brony. What? We're not talking about bronies. Behave. Yeah, I thought Ironmonger dying was okay, since that is pretty well how he went down in the comics. Past they kill him. What's that?
They kill him too easy.
They
get rid of the villains all the time.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, for crying out loud! It was on the tip of my tongue.
We were talking about X-Men.
Old age. X-Men, yeah. And then you had the newer movies, didn't you? When they sort of like went back in time.
Right, the younger versions.
The younger versions. How do you think they fared?
They started off fine and then they dipped, just like the other series of films. They all start off fine and then they gradually go downhill until they become unwatchable. They tried the Phoenix Saga twice in both series of films and they botched it twice. It's, that story has to be like it was in the comics. That has to be a big cosmic opus. It can't be a grounded story. And they tried to
got it right in the animated series, X-Men?
It's been so long since I saw that. It's, but like I say, animation is always the preferred medium of mine to adapt comic books, because you can do those, more outlandish, more cosmic concepts, because you can do that in animation and not worry about the budget so much.
Yeah.
In films, they're stuck with the budget for visual effects, and a lot of things get cut. The end
I don't think the visual effects were too bad in any of the movies that I can recall, or would you not agree with that?
Some visual effects in some films are very shaky, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they go overboard. Like the very last Ant-Man film, when they went to the quantum realm, it was all CGI. It just it looked like someone threw up a bag of Skittles all over the screen. It was too much. There's a happy medium between, practical effects and then CGI when you're doing visual effects. You can't keep going all CGI. I mean, they had to do it in Endgame with that huge battle scene. There was no other way to portray that. But then they sort of kept going overboard in every subsequent film with CGI, and it gets too much. It takes you out of the story when it's obviously not real.
So, but do you think, but other than the CGI, did you think the story was okay? Do you think they...
No.
Oh, okay. No. You just you didn't like that film? No.
There haven't been many good scripts post-Endgame. Maybe the Spider-Man film, but that might be just nostalgia talking with them bringing... Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire back. But I don't think any of the scripts have been particularly good.
Yeah, because there was the Spider-Man No Way Home. Which one was that? Which one was the one after Tony Stark died? Straight after Tony Stark, after Infinity. It was Spider-Man Homecoming.
Homecoming was the first one. There was Far From Home, and then there was No Way Home.
Oh,
Far From Home was the one immediately after Endgame.
I thought that was okay. I didn't mind that too much.
Yeah, that was the one with Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio.
Mysterio, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was okay. I personally
Again,
don't like how they made Spider-Man Iron Man Jr. for the first, few appearances in the MCU.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, well. But I mean, as stories go, was you happy with what they did with the Marvel Universe in phases 1 to 3? In just in general?
Overall, yeah, I
Yeah.
was.
But
Yeah.
then since then, it's kind of deteriorated a little bit, hasn't it?
Since then, it's been directionless is the problem.
Yeah.
They keep introducing all these different concepts. And I know the overall concept is supposed to be the multiverse, but
Yeah.
it's been so incredibly vague. And then they have thrown all the television shows in there as well. So it's
Yes.
become extremely difficult for anyone to pick up and follow what's going on in the MCU since Endgame, because you have all the TV shows, all the films, and there's no really clear through line like there was in the Infinity Saga. In the Infinity Saga, we knew it was about the stones, and the
Yeah.
Endgame was Thanos getting the stones, and you saw that throughout all the films.
Yeah.
In this new series of films and TV shows, there's really no comprehensive way to follow them and understand what's going on. Like, nothing relates to anything. How does WandaVision relate to Shang-Chi, or relate to, Secret Invasion or anything else? No one
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah.
They should concentrate on going back to telling self-contained stories with the best creators possible, rather than trying to keep on the shared universe. If you don't have a direction for your shared universe,
Just
then
keep it as, yeah.
forget about it and just try to tell the best stories you can.
Mm.
They're kind of stuck in this whole shared universe thing now, because people expected it in the first series of films, and now they have no plan for what's coming up.
Do you think that's why the first, like, the Infinity Saga and the Endgame Saga worked so well? Because those first 6 movies did do well individually, as with those characters. They, sort of like elaborated on those characters more. You had character development and stuff like that.
Right.
And
You were able to get to know Iron Man and Thor and
yeah,
Captain America, and to some extent the Hulk, separately,
yeah,
before they threw them all together in Avengers.
yeah,
And I thought Avengers was fantastic. That movie was a revelation when it first came out. I never
yeah,
thought I'd see something like that on the big screen, and I really enjoyed it.
yeah.
And they were able to build on that, with other characters. Black Panther,
Yeah,
Guardians of the Galaxy, all did well. The first Doctor Strange movie was good, and they all sort of built up to that Infinity War and Endgame.
yeah,
And then since then, it's just kind of, it doesn't help that you've killed off Iron Man, you've gotten rid of Captain America, and now you're kind of trying to keep the ball rolling with all the second stringers.
yeah. I mean, did not Captain America, Iron Man, did he die in the comics then? Tony Stark.
Every comic book character has died multiple times in the comics.
Oh, okay.
Everyone has died and come back and died and come back. It's a trope in comics that every once in a while someone dies and comes back. Batman has died. Superman has died. Wolverine has died. Everyone has died. Spider-Man has died.
Wow.
They've all died and come back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I quite like, I like Marvel. I don't like what they've done with it recently. I must admit, I quite like DC. I do prefer the Dark Knight stuff, Batman and the Harley Quinn and the Joker, as opposed to like Wonder Woman and the Flash
Mhm.
and whatnot. And I kind of, for me, with DC, I think they should have built their multiverse or their universe around the Dark Knight trilogy. I really do. I think they missed a beat there.
I really think the Dark Knight trilogy was a little too grounded to then go to, say Superman or Aquaman or Wonder Woman. Christopher
Okay.
Nolan's idea with those 3 films was to keep them as grounded as possible.
Okay.
And I think
Yeah,
that may have been the wrong jumping off point to go into the more fantastical elements.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can see that. I can see that. Yeah. Yeah. Fair point. Fair point. So we've covered DC, we've covered Marvel. Let's cover G.I. Joe, because I know we've got a big G.I. Joe fan watching, which is DC straight from the pit. Now, you had your comics, Real American Hero, predominantly written by Larry Hama. And I thought I loved the comics back in the day. Growing up as a kid, I loved reading the comics. That was one comic line that I did enjoy reading. So you had a massive foundation and decent storylines in there. Then you had the Sunbow cartoon, didn't you? So again, it was good for its time, really enjoyable. We like watching that.
Mhm.
But then they come out with the movie. Well, you had, like, I think redos of the animated series. You had, was it what was it? The G.I. Joe cartoons, not Relentless,
Renegades.
Renegades, and then
There
you
was
had the other one
Renegades, and
before
there
that
was
as well.
right. There was the one they showed on Adult Swim. See, I'm not a huge G.I. Joe fan. I know
Oh,
the
okay.
I know the broad strokes of the
Yeah,
franchise, but
yeah.
if I'm not really familiar with the details. I have seen the first two films, though. I didn't see Snake Eyes. I saw
Well,
the first film.
yeah, you're not missing much. Don't worry
Yeah,
about that.
the first film didn't feel like G.I. Joe to me. And, they did that stupid thing that they always do in films where they have to make some sort of personal connection between the hero and the villain. And I
Yeah,
think in the film they made Duke and Cobra Commander brothers or something like that. And
yeah,
that's stupid.
yeah.
We,
So the girl that Duke was going out with, the Sienna Miller character,
Mhm,
the guy who ended up playing Cobra Commander was her brother.
mhm.
So they were going to get married, and then they went off to that mission, didn't they? And he goes down into that bunker. The brother goes down into the bunker gets blown up and stuff like that, and they think he's dead and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I was really disappointed with both those movies, the two movies and the Snake Eyes Origins movies. We'll get onto that in a minute.
Mhm.
But with all the storylines that they had in the comic books, and again, quite a strong foundation, how is it that it never transitioned well from that comic to the big screen?
Because they wanted to put their own spin on it and they didn't want to follow the source material. And I think a lot of people point to the producer, Lorenzo Di Bonaventura, as being the one that kind of keeps screwing things up and not, being faithful to the source material.
Yeah. And I think it's such a shame, because I think, if I was like a writer and I'd written all these comic books and stuff like that with great storylines and they were very well received, and then I see transition from comic to big screen and they come out with that, I'd be like, what the? Do you know what I mean? I'd be quite disappointed, and I'd be saying, well, why
Yeah.
didn't you come to me to? I mean, why do you think they never went to Larry Hama for stories and stuff like that? I mean, how different is it from what you said something about it earlier about it being totally different writing for a comic than what it
Right.
is writing for?
Storytelling language is completely different. But like I said before, there's foundational aspects you can carry through that they didn't.
Yeah,
That's the problem. There's certain foundational aspects to G.I. Joe, I'm sure, that can be followed through if you're doing a movie adaptation. And it sounds like they didn't do that. It's expected that films are going to put their own spin on the material. And that's how you evolve the material, and that's how you grow the franchise and get new fans in. But like I said,
yeah,
if you disregard the foundational aspects, you're going to lose the existing fan base. And the existing fan base, from a business perspective, that's your built-in money.
yeah,
Those are the people that are going to give you their money, sight unseen, because they're a fan of this property. If you lose them first, that's just a poor business decision. If you're actively not, pursuing that business first and then trying to grow your new fan base on top of that.
Mm. Well, I mean, like, they're doing it with Star Wars at the moment, aren't they? But we're not going to be
Oh,
talking about that.
oh yeah.
Let's just catch up with the chat quickly. Ant-Man 3 was so bad. I didn't mind it. I thought it wasn't too bad. I thought it was okay. Agree with Goji. Phase 1 and 2, perhaps the best MCU movies. They were on a winning streak there, hit after hit. Yeah, yep, definitely. Is that Zivar 96? The beard is looking good. Thank you so much. Yeah, or you talking about me or Goji? I don't know, but if it's me, thank you. Yeah, it's coming along. It's coming along. I need it to get it trimmed or tidied up a little bit. I've got a wedding to go to, so I can't go looking like this. And then once that's done at the end of August, I'll be just letting it grow out until December the 31st, and that cannot come round quick enough. I tell you that. I tell you that. I feel past Endgame or post Endgame, even the few good movies try too hard for the CGI finale. Shang-Chi, really liked it until the dragon fight at the end. Yeah. I wasn't taken on that movie, to be honest with you. The MCU was great for the most part up to Infinity War. After that, the quality dropped like a rock. Yep. Secret Invasion was the final straw for me. Haven't watched anything since. Again, I was, when they said about that and they showed the clip, I thought, oh, this is going to be good. But Yeah, weren't brilliant, was it? Yeah, too many films plus shows, it gets watered down maybe too much. Yeah, well, the thing is, they're bringing the money in, isn't it? That's what they're worried about, bringing the money in. TV Moon Knight was going pretty well until we had to do a kaiju battle in the last episode. Yeah, see, that was weird. I couldn't get my head around that. I didn't understand that at all, that program. But there we go. After Endgame, the MCU rapidly went downhill. Yes, yep. Somewhere in the multiverse, Goji is Captain. Is that Kujai?
Captain Kaiju. Captain Kaiju. Yeah,
Kaiju,
it's this universe
Kaiju.
logo. I'm secretly
The
Captain
problem with
Kaiju.
Moon Knight show was that Moon Knight was hardly in it. Yeah. What's this? I do like that. I love the Netflix Daredevil series, and I'm kind of terrified of how this new. Yeah, let's talk about that, shall we? I mean, that was absolutely fantastic. Daredevil and the Punisher for Netflix, absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed those. It was a bit gory, but that was okay. It was good storytelling. How much do you think it's going to change now that it's actually under Disney's wing and going to be part of the MCU?
What, completely. It's gonna be a 180.
It's such a shame because I just thought they played those parts so well.
We got a preview of that in the She-Hulk. I don't know if you watched She-Hulk. In the She-Hulk
Yes,
series.
I did.
Yeah. When Daredevil was doing the walk of shame from, She-Hulk's apartment, and everyone was like, "Oh no."
Yeah, but then I read somewhere that he had to play the part like that because he was in her show. If he was in his show, he wouldn't have been acting like that. It would have been totally different.
Sounds like wishful thinking on the part of some fans.
Yeah,
I don't have any faith in Marvel at this point.
It's such a shame because they
the
did a great
Netflix
job
series worked. The Netflix series worked because it was completely divorced from the films. Like at that time, there was the schism between Marvel movies and Marvel TV. So Marvel TV was doing pretty much whatever it wanted, but it just couldn't tie anything back directly to the films. It's supposed to be in the same universe, but there's no direct connections between them. So they had a lot more freedom to do what they wanted to.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to get dumbed down a lot?
Yes.
Characters?
Yeah. Yeah. Did you watch the Hawkeye series?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay. Did you think the Kingpin in that was as good a version as we saw in Daredevil?
No.
Same actor.
And I don't think he was that good in Echo either.
I didn't watch Echo. I spared myself the torture. Yeah.
I watched it because I love Vincent D'Onofrio's take or how he portrayed Kingpin. I thought he was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
In Daredevil.
In the Daredevil series, Vincent D'Onofrio was terrifying.
Yeah, he was.
Not so much on the Disney series.
Yeah. No. And again, why dumb him down? I don't get it. That's what made him great. That's what made that series like successful and people like it. And it's the same with the Punisher. I mean, you can't imagine Frank Castle walking around like fighting rainbows and kissing butterflies, can you? And all that sort of stuff. You know, he was absolutely savage in the Punisher, and that's what was good about it. I mean, he took some beatings, but
yeah.
Other than that, I thought
the Punisher is not family friendly. I think Deadpool's going to be a good litmus test because this is going to be the first R-rated movie to come out under the MCU banner. Because before it was Fox. But now Fox has been folded into the MCU. So this is going to be the first MCU R-rated project. We'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, because I think Ryan Reynolds has had a fight in his hands to try and fight off Kathleen Kennedy for certain, because she wanted certain bits in it, didn't she?
Well, Kevin Feige, I think.
Oh, Kevin Feige wanted bits in it.
Well, Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars. She has nothing to do with Marvel.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. But yeah, but why ruin it? Why dumb it down? I just don't get it.
They want everything to fit into whatever mold they're using now. We don't know what that mold is. They've got a mold over there.
Shit one at the moment.
They've got a mold over there at Disney that they're trying to fit everything into, and it's just not working.
Look, the way I see it, just want to get onto Disney quickly because that's we're on the subject. So it's going to sound awful, but you've got your Disney princesses and stuff like that, and all for the girls and stuff like that. And so let them have their Disney princesses, and then let the boys have the boys. Why can't we have boys bits and girls bits? Why has it got to all be sort of like integrated and dumbed down? I don't get it.
Stu, I've got bad news. You've just been canceled on X. I'm sorry. You've been canceled.
Have I? No,
you're out.
What the hell? What can I say?
They're about to dox you. You're done.
Isn't it? It's true. You had you've Marvel is predominantly a male orientated audience, isn't it? And it's the same with like DC, I guess. And then you've got the girl side of things, female side of things with the Disney princesses and stuff like that. I mean, you know, we all like watching a Disney movie every now. I watch it with the wife every now and again, you know, so it's all good. But why have they just got to dumb things down? Why have they got to soften characters and stuff like that? It just you might as well just stick to the comics. I mean, is it getting like that in the comics as well, Goji?
Oh yes,
Really?
Oh yes, 100%.
Wow, that's wow.
I stopped reading monthly comics in I think 2016.
Really?
One because of the cost. Comic books in America now cost $5 each, which is asinine. It's ridiculous. And then the storytelling aspects, what they were doing with the characters, trying to replace all their major characters with other different type of characters. You know, I don't want to get too specific and be controversial, but you know what I mean. Yeah, it is like that in the comics.
Wow.
At one point in the comics, they were trying to create two characters called Snowflake and Safe Space in Marvel. I don't think they ever did it, but that's where it was going.
Yeah. Let's just crack on with the chat. Guardians is my wife's fave. I like the first couple. Yeah, I thought they were pretty decent. Again, I thought the third one wasn't as good, but it was enjoyable. What's this? Lassie, No Way Home. Lassie, Far From Home. Lassie.
Also a good trilogy.
Did Howard the Duck die too at Gojitron?
I'm sure Howard the Duck has died at some point.
Yeah. If Captain Marvel hadn't been shoehorned into Endgame, the Hulk would have played a bigger role and not been turned into a complete wimp. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. I mean, so were they following the comics then? Were they following the storylines of the comics, the MCU? Did they get it pretty much right?
No, not at all. The broad strokes, but the details were completely different.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think it would be possible to do the Infinity Gauntlet in films, directly adapting it from comics, because there were years of build-up in comics building up to that event, and they didn't have years of build-up to do it in the films. And it involved characters like Silver Surfer and Adam Warlock and characters like that you know, hadn't been introduced into those films yet. And in the comics, Thanos did not want the Infinity Gauntlet to blip out people to save resources. In the comics, he was in love with Death, the personification of Death, who was portrayed as a woman, and he was in love with her. So he sacrificed half the universe as a gesture to show his love for her. So his motivations were completely changed in the films. So yeah, the broad strokes were there, but all the details were different.
So with those motivations then, do you think they changed it because they didn't feel that was going to be, that wouldn't work within the movies, the story that we're telling, or it was?
I think the whole thing about saving on resources is something that, you know, the general public can understand with the state of the world right now. With, you know, global warming and fossil fuels and inflation and all the crap that's going on. I think people understand that we need to save resources more than, you know, people can't relate to being in love with death, but they can relate to, you know, there's too damn many people on the planet for what we have.
Yeah. True. Let's just catch up with the chats. I'm a bit behind in the chat. American Ninja one with Michael, is that Dudikoff, would have been is the perfect Snake Eyes movie. Yeah, we'll go back to Snake Eyes Origins. I was so excited for when that movie was coming out. I thought, good, we're going to get a decent Origins movie of Snake Eyes. He's a great character. Goji, it was shocking, mate. Absolutely shocking. Don't watch it. I didn't enjoy it. Some people might like it. That's fine, fair enough. But for me, I was just like, oh god, because again, you've got this awesome character that they portray in the comics. And then you've got, you know, the animated series as well. And oh dear, what they did with that movie was not great. G.I. Joe, bring back the Adventure Team. Enough said. I'm not too sure the Adventure Team. Who was the Adventure Team?
That was the 1970s iteration, the big 12-inch dolls that Margot was fond of.
Okay, no worries.
A character like Snake Eyes, I think, works best as a part of a team. Because, if you want to stay true to the character, his mask is on and he's silent. He can't carry a solo film unless you do away with all that. But as part of a team, he works.
Yeah. Kim and Balls put every Marvel superhero and supervillain died when they destroyed Stan Lee's Marvel Universe a few years ago in the comic books. Then they rebooted with the current comic Marvel Universe mess. I mean, Stan Lee was, he was pretty present for most of that phase 1, 2, and 3, wasn't he? I mean, do you think since he's sort of passed away that it's gone downhill? He's not got any control at all?
Stan Lee hasn't had anything to do with Marvel Comics creativity since the early 1970s. He was, as far as Marvel is concerned, he was a figurehead.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yes, changing the JoJo's story was bad. It weren't bad. It was shite. I watched Snake Eyes. It was basically Fast and Furious with ninjas. Yeah. Oh dear. All they would have to do is pick a good Hammer book, and it would be ace. Well, there you are.
Dave does love his Larry Hama.
He does. I hated G.I. Joe for many years as I blamed them for the demise of OG Action Force. It is only via YouTubers like It's Chad that I've gained a real appreciation for it through, though primarily as a toy line. Oh, okay. Yes, G.I. Joe films lost me. Yeah, they weren't great at all, were they? Hello, Gerard. How are you? You probably wrote that ages ago, so yeah, I do apologize. Stu is planning on cosplaying Clone Wars Dooku. My beard it's not that bad. What are you talking about? Nowhere near. Nowhere near. Unbelievable.
Are you as tall as Sir Christopher Lee?
No.
He was a tall man.
He was a tall man, yeah. Well, I make most people look quite tall. I'm very short. I don't know if you've seen the photos, Goji. Photos that I have with most of the other guys from the community. I'm just, yeah. I mean, I'm even shorter than Adam Berry, for crying out loud, and Nick from APC. and they're short. I mean, I make P. Jim look tall as well. I think they're afraid of Hammer's story being too real or violent. I don't think it is. I love it, but maybe that is why. Possibly. Even if they would have made a film adaptation of the cartoon miniseries, the mass device, they could have been a gem. Yeah. Yep. What's this? Didn't they scrap about 6 episodes of the New Devil show?
It's possible.
Oh, really?
It's possible. Things are quite a mess over there at Disney right now. Quite a mess.
No. Is it? Wow. You do
except for the Acolyte. That's been aces.
Don't get me started on the Acolyte. We're not talking about that. They started filming a new series of Devil and scrapped it and started again, giving it more Netflix edge, but we will see. I hope they do. I really hope they don't ruin it. Yeah, he was. I just thought he was absolutely fantastic. I really did. I'm so far behind in the chat. They're now spending months reshooting Captain America 4 yet again. Yeah, I mean, what was it? I
forgot they were even making that film.
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Again, I was looking forward to that. And up to a certain point, it wasn't too bad. But then he gave that massive spiel at the end, and I just thought, shut up.
Right.
And I kind of turned off. I was like, yeah, you've lost me now. Lots of cameo appearances by characters from previous Fox Marvel movies in the Deadpool. I don't know if I'm looking forward to that. I like the first 2 Deadpool movies, but I'm not too sure. It'll be interesting to watch. Yes, we need more girls. I used to get Transformers comics for 25p. Yeah, let's talk about Transformers again. You've got the comic books, and then you've got the TV animated series as foundations, but then they've kind of like brought it forward and tried to, make it fit into today's world with, and I don't think it worked. The best movie for me for Transformers was Bumblebee. I absolutely love that because it was set in the 80s, and that's when the Transformers were about. It's when they originated from.
I mean, they've updated Transformers so many times on television and animation. There's, a couple dozen different animated shows right now. And a lot of those have been really good. I really enjoyed Beast Wars. I really enjoyed Transformers Animated. Transformers Prime was excellent. Yeah. But if we're talking about the feature films, there's 2 words that explain what went wrong there. Michael Bay.
Okay, fair enough.
His juvenile humor, his insistence on putting the hot chicks in there and having the camera leer at them, and his sensibilities just don't work with Transformers.
Why did
we Transformers fans enjoy we Transformers fans want to see the the gravitas of the story, the 4 million year civil war between these two immortal races, the
Yeah.
falling out between Optimus and Megatron that led to the conflict. We want to see the it can be fun, but we want to see the material taken seriously. Michael Bay didn't take it seriously.
Why did they let him direct it then? Why did they get these people in to direct these movies? I mean, surely
Because he makes money. Because he makes money.
See, so basically, they'd rather have something like that that's not really close to source material to make loads of money, and then again, you're losing. I know you've got to try and get in a newer generation of viewers. I understand that, and it's the same with any, comic line that's going, or like DC, Marvel. I get that, I really do, but stick to the source material, because I would have found that amazing. With today's technology, with how you make films and stuff like that in the CGI, they could have quite easily gone back to Cybertron and shown us how it all started and then brought it to Earth. You could have had a trilogy of films that way.
Yeah, they're doing that in the next Transformers animated movie that's coming out later this year, but they're playing that, it seems, as more of a Pixar film. It's Pixar.
Yeah, I think I've seen what's it? Because Megatron and Prime are friends then back then, aren't they?
Right. Yeah.
That's yeah.
And there's a lot of funny bits in the trailer. But and I think they made the Transformers themselves way too complicated in the CGI. I mean, who could tell who was fighting who in most of those battle scenes? I couldn't.
Yeah.
Unless you saw Optimus Prime's, distinctive flame pattern on his body. Who was who in those films? It was just a jumbled mess.
It was. I mean,
and
they
of course,
spent a lot of money on it, I'm sure,
the Transformers films have the same problem that fans of Godzilla films complain about: too much focus on the human story, not enough focus on the monsters, the robots, whoever else is in the film.
Yeah,
it was all about the first 3 films were all about Shia LaBeouf, and then it went to Mark Wahlberg, and they were the main characters, not Optimus Prime or Bumblebee or Megatron.
Yeah. Like I say, I mean, the Bumblebee movie, I didn't mind that so much. I thought that wasn't too bad.
And that Bumblebee movie could have been a great jumping off point for a G.I. Joe film franchise as well, if John Cena's character had just been a member of the Joe team.
Yeah.
And a lot of people go back to those original films where the Nest team, the military guys that work with the Transformers, they could have easily made that the G.I. Joe team as well.
Yeah.
They're taking the long way around doing all those things. And now that the next film is going to be a Transformers G.I. Joe crossover. Who knows?
Because you had the Transformers Rise of the Beast, didn't you, as well? And they sort of hinted towards that at the end of the movie.
Yeah, there was a tease on that at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And now the next film is announced as Transformers and G.I. Joe, which I'm completely indifferent to at this point.
Yeah.
After seeing all the previous films in the franchise, I am completely indifferent. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as movies go, I guess they, if I'd never seen Transformers or knew about Transformers, if I was growing up as a kid this day and age, I'd have gone, yeah, that's that, I would have quite liked that. But because of our, we were around when Transformers first came out, I don't see why they don't stick to the original source material, how they look and stuff like that, because it still would have been a compelling story. I think a lot of the writing these days, you're getting lost with the CGI and stuff like that, and the storytelling isn't as good, and it's certainly not as deep as what you can get in the comics.
Right, certainly not as deep. I mean, fair play, those films did make a lot of money, and they did create a lot of new Transformers fans. But there was diminishing returns because it was the same notes played over and over and over again in every film.
Yeah.
There was a MacGuffin, and they had to get the MacGuffin, and the Decepticons wanted the MacGuffin, and whether it was the cube or the space bridge or whatever, it was just the same movie over and over and over again. They really didn't evolve the story all that much, so people lost interest after a time.
Yeah. I will have a question to ask you at the end, Goji, and it would be quite interesting to hear what your answer would be. To me, it is the storytelling. When it gets bad, it doesn't matter what agenda it is on. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. I still buy the a real American hero Hammer comic because he writes it the same as 1980s, funny, violent, true. Awesome. Martin, they reshot Captain America 4 times now, 3 to 4 times. The last one took 6 weeks, and the film budget.
Yeah, they're never going to make that money back on that film. It's going to be another Indiana Jones film. They're never going to make the money back.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. They just fired the current Spider-Man comic book writer because he made Peter Parker and MJ totally unlikable. Wow. Okay, didn't know that. Hey Goji, is it true a G.I. Joe Transformers? Yeah, we've just touched on that. Yeah. They totally destroyed Peter and MJ in the comics. Wow. Hey, been listening while working on a collection. Great stream. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, man. Jonathan, there's another reason the films don't make a profit, I guess. Yeah, the gems for the gauntlet had been around for a very long time before Thanos combined them. Oh, interesting stuff. Too much money spent fixing mistakes. Yeah. Oh, this one is going to flop, Martin. Just no way make a profit. I'm trying to read these without my glasses. I think I'm doing a good job. Watch Snake Eyes free on Channel 4. It's still crap. Yeah, it's just such a shame because I think they were going to do another one, weren't they? But I think that got canned. The MCU is still getting it wrong by changing the sexes of established comic book characters. The Silver Surfer is not a female character. Have they changed the sex now of the Silver Surfer?
Yeah.
Good God. Agree, Kieran. Basing the movie version on a character that appeared in a few issues of a What If style comic is just crazy. Yeah. Simple. Just hire people that have experience and a good track record, not someone who has never written, directed. Before. Yeah. Martin cancelled. But he's absolutely right, though. He really is.
Right. They're not hiring people for their ability to create their checking boxes.
Yeah.
Which is the wrong way to go about it. Which I don't understand because it doesn't matter what message you put in your product. If the product is so bad that no one wants to watch it, no one's going to hear your message anyway. First and foremost, the goal should be create a good product that the most people want to watch, because at the end of the day, these are businesses. They need to make money. You should have a product that will pull in the biggest audience possible, and then have it be good enough that they want to rewatch it or rent it or buy the Blu-ray when it comes out. They're just putting out rubbish, and whatever message they're trying to deliver is falling on deaf ears because no one cares.
Well, I think first and foremost, this particularly goes to Disney and Lucasfilm, and I know we're getting off topic here, but they should concentrate, and the rest of Hollywood should concentrate on getting the story across first. Get the story in there, make it a good story, get decent writers in, because then that's what gets people in, because it's a decent story.
But then the problem is
to be littered with CGI and stuff like that.
Do they know what a good story is anymore?
No,
that's the thing. They may think that they're telling a good story. They may be sitting in their bubbles, in their echo chambers, talking to each other and saying, "Wow, that's a great idea, isn't it? Yeah, that's awesome. Let's do it." And
I think they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They're coming in and they're using these movie franchises as a platform,
right,
to promote their own personal agendas or ideals, and that is wrong, because those agendas and ideals are coming across more so than the storyline, and that is what is turning people away, because we're getting sick and tired of it.
Right,
absolutely sick and tired of it. And if they're now doing it in comics as well,
it's been going on in comics for years. People in Hollywood aren't creative enough anymore. They don't have the ability to create something from whole cloth. Look at what we had in the 70s and 80s. Star Wars, Aliens, Terminator, Predator, RoboCop, Back to the Future. All these franchises were created in film, for film. They weren't adaptations. They weren't anything from books. I was looking back the past 20 years of big films in Hollywood. The MCU, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, the DC films, everything has been an adaptation of someone else's work. What big franchise has Hollywood created in Hollywood in the past 20 years? The only thing I can really think of is Avatar. As derivative as that franchise is, James Cameron's Avatar is probably the biggest thing to come out of Hollywood in the past 20 years.
Wasn't that based on a game? Was that not based on a game?
I don't think so. I believe that was James Cameron's original idea.
Oh, really? Okay.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. Now they mention games. Now the new thing is video game adaptations. So they just keep adapting stuff and resurrecting dead franchises because they're not creating anything new, which is silly. Everything was new at some point.
Yeah.
What are they going to resurrect in 20 years from now if there's nothing new now? There'll be nothing to dig up.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Right. This simple. Just oh yeah. Okay, we've had that one. I hate the argument. Silver Surfer was a woman in the comics. It was one issue in an alternative reality. Oh, God. Oh dear. Is it Gandalf's beard? I'm getting that way. You shall not pass. That is for sure. That's the big problem with Disney at the moment. The writers they are hiring for TV shows and movies have zero writing. Yeah, but they're good at putting their ideals across, though. That's the most important thing. Let's get your ideals across and then sod the story, and then they wonder why people bitch and moan on the internet. Unbelievable. No offense to Stan Lee, but without Jack Kirby and Steve, is that Ditko?
Steve Ditko, yes.
Would not have
absolutely correct.
Well,
Absolutely correct.
Again, I don't know these guys.
Yeah.
Star Wars, always the money guy. Oh, no, Stan was always the money guy. He knew how to market stuff like no one else. Yeah.
Stanley was the pitch man.
Best movie, best Transformers movie was Transformers the movie. Do you know what? I watched that. Crikey, what was it? I think it must have been towards the end of last year. That is a hard watch. That was a hard watch, especially with that soundtrack. I was like, oh my God.
That soundtrack is awesome.
Hey, Chad, how are you? Sorry it's taken a while to get down to you, mate. I do apologize. You've probably buggered off and doing something else now.
Hey, Chad.
So I do apologize. Good to see you, pal. I've tried with the Bay films. There are some good aspects, but they often fall flat. Yeah. I mean, I don't like the characteristics he put in the characters either into the robots, into the Transformers. It weren't great. The start of Bumblebee and Gojitron for an entire movie would, that was great. I love that start. Biggest issue isn't Bay, it's whoever that is. Who is that?
Yeah, Lorenzo Di Bonaventura. That's the guy I mentioned earlier when you were talking about G.I. Joe films.
Okay, I was just about to roll off the tongue before you stepped in there, Goji. Maybe you should try watching Snake Eyes without your glasses. No, it's still shit.
And the volume off.
Yeah, Gojitron the movie was okay. I preferred. Oh, hello, Johnny. How are you? Gojitron the movie was okay. I preferred the source material. Which movie was this? I do believe I must have probably missed. No,
he's talking about Gojitron the movie. The movie that I'm based on. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I can speak Johnny fluently.
Please don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you very much, Kieran. Very much appreciated. Okay, guys. Great live stream. Going for a nap. See you later. Yeah, you rest up, Dave. Take care, mate. And yeah, speak to you soon. Cheers, pal. Thanks for being in the chat, brother. Yo, Joe. Yeah, nice one. Legends of Comics. The writers of House of the Dragon. Sure, no, what a good story. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've been watching that and I think that's absolutely brilliant. They balls the I think season 8 up of Game of Thrones, which was a shame, but yeah, the House of Dragon so far with 3 episodes into season 2, loving it. I've got to say, really cool.
So far, so good. But then,
yeah,
Game of Thrones started off brilliantly too, didn't it?
It started off when?
I said Game of Thrones started off brilliantly as well, and then
it did. Yeah. Well, I think those guys were in a rush to get it finished, weren't they? For some reason.
Yeah, they wanted to rush off and make a Star Wars film that got canceled.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, ridiculous. X-Men 97 proved they can still do good stories, in my opinion. Yeah, I enjoyed X-Men 97. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And do you know what? The thing is, Robert, a lot of the better storytelling at the moment is being done through animation. You've just got to look at, we go to Star Wars, we've just got to look at the Bad Batch, you've got to look at the Clone Wars and Rebels to a certain extent, all animated series. And they are telling the best stories at the moment, I think. And it's mad. Absolutely mad. Let's Go Avatar is James Cameron doesn't miss. He was writing Avatar on the set of Terminator 1. Oh, wow. Didn't know that. I don't know, Goji. I honestly believe Avatar's success is more to do with the 3D tech wow factor, more so than the story. People just go, yeah, I mean, I watched it in 3D. That was
I don't know why it was a success. I'm just saying it's the only original thing to come out of Hollywood in the past 20 years that was a success, regardless of why you got there.
Avatar is just the total package that speaks to the largest audience possible. Military, aliens, monsters, robots. It has it all, and it is top quality without being an overcomplicated story. Yeah, absolutely. Stu is so far behind the chat, he makes Shabby look like a professional. I was going to say something rude then, Kieran. I've caught up with the chat. What are you talking about? I've caught up with the chat. again, for those who don't follow Goji, thank you very much, mate. Yeah, appreciate that.
Thanks, Chris.
Really cool. Really cool. So we're going to wrap the live stream up in a minute. I just got one question to ask you, Goji. Do you think now is the time for writers to stop using current IPs and mucking those up and come up with something totally new and fresh for us to engage in, and stop with the Marvel already, stop with the DC?
I think it's always time to come up with something new and fresh, if people are creative enough to do it. There are people in toys that are doing that right now, with Animal Warriors of the Kingdom and Valaverse and Savage Crucible and Mythic Legions. There are people coming up with original ideas in toys right now. But we seem to be stuck in a huge rut when it comes to film and television.
Yeah.
They keep mining the same ground over and over and over, and they've just stripped it bare now, and this is what we've got. And the question I always have is there anyone creative enough working in the film industry right now? And if they are creative enough, are they getting the support from the studios? That's the other thing. Because you can't just be creative. You've got to have the money to make it as well. And that may be a problem. Because the studio heads have it in there. The studio heads have it in their ideas that we need to keep this IP going. Merchandise. Sell our subscription service. I think these streaming services were probably the worst thing to happen in entertainment ever.
Do you think so?
Yes, absolutely. There is so much content being dumped on the public right now. There aren't enough talented people to produce all the content that's being dumped on us. There just aren't. I mean, they had shows bomb back when there were only 3 networks. Now you've got a dozen streaming services pumping out, 50 shows a year.
Yeah.
That's not all going to be quality. A tiny fraction of that might be quality. It's
they're just thinking about the money, aren't they? They're thinking about money.
It's too much entertainment.
Chat, end times, people. End times. Animal Warriors of the Kingdom isn't my scale, but I would watch the hell out of a decent animated adaptation. Okay. Gilster's in the chat. What is your thoughts on June 1 and 2? I've seen June 1, not seen the second one. You're in the quiz tomorrow, Gilster. You're in the quiz tomorrow. So I did send you the link. I've turned my Wi-Fi off, so hopefully you replied. But yeah. Have you seen June 1 and 2?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that finished that one then.
Not a fan of Dune.
No, streaming services are all about quantity, not quality. Yeah. Well, that's exactly. I think that is today's modern. That's just everything in general with today's modern life, isn't it? It's quantity, not quality. It's just about putting out shit. If I'm honest. Well, we've been going almost an hour and a half, so I think we're going to pretty much wrap it up now. I just want to say a massive thank you, Goji. It has been awesome chatting to you. I do love our conversations. Thank you so much for taking part. And we did kind of like veer off a little bit of the topic, comics to movies and stuff like that. But yeah,
we go where the topic takes us.
A really thoroughly enjoyable chat. Guys in the chat, just want to say massive thank you so much. Just 80s June is still way better in my opinion. I've not seen that. I need to watch that one. I've seen the first one of the new lot, but I've not seen the old one. I need to watch that.
I mean, it's got Sting. It's automatically better with Sting, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, it must be. And the young Patrick Stewart as well, I think was in it. Young Patrick Stewart, and even elevated the first film. Okay, nice one, Gilster. Appreciate that, mate. It's rare something quality gets out in streaming. It happens though. Yeah, very rare. Time flew by. Great chat and topic. Yeah, appreciate that, Chris. I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody in the chat. Before we go, Goji, what have you got coming up, mate?
This week is going to be my video about Johnny Quest. And then after that, I'm going to do a video about the time that Godzilla fought Cobra.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. Awesome. There's going to be a Godzilla live stream on next week. I will send you the link. A friend of mine, APD, he's or APC, he's doing a chat on Godzilla next week, and he's going to be with Kat.
Fantastic.
Vader's girl is going to be doing it, so I'll send you the link. It might be something that you might be interested in.
I'm always up for a good Godzilla chat.
Great show. Found you through the adventures. Oh, thank you very much, man. Really appreciate that. Cheers, pal. Thank you very much. Sitting in a cod piece. What you come out with? What? God. Damn. In 84 version, Picard changed the enemy. Was that charged the enemy with a pug dog in his arms? Awesome. Great show, guys. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Thanks, you. Yep. Cheers. And awesome live stream. Gojitron. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gents, I shall be back tomorrow with game week 8 of the movie quiz. So that will be starting 8 p.m. UK time. So we're going to be having Manga Fandanga, Gilster, Rick from Left Coast Graphics. We're going to be having 1000th Ghost, and we're going to be having Eric Lutz. So yeah, awesome. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you stayed with us to the end, very much appreciated. Take care, stay safe, and we shall see you tomorrow. Cheers now. Bye-bye.